New research finds that making a wrong guess before learning the right answer actually helps you remember it better. And the reason is more interesting than you might think. A new study finds that solo time in nature has a measurable protective effect against loneliness, even when you're actually completely alone. And a case study that went viral this week involves a woman in the 1980s who heard voices telling her she had a brain tumor, and it turned out the voices were right. Consider this your daily detour from the thing everyone is currently furious about. New Side Quest starts now. A new study adds to a growing body of research on something that runs directly against how most of us were taught in school. Getting the wrong answer first actually helps you learn the right one better. In one foundational study, researchers asked participants to recall pairs of words under two conditions: rote memorization and trial and error. In the rote memorization condition, they simply memorized the word pairs. In the trial and error condition, they were shown the first word and had to guess what the second word would be. After a 10-minute break, participants in the rote memorization group had a recall rate of about 54%. In the trial and error condition, participants who made near-miss guesses, close to the right answer but not quite there, had a recall rate of 79%. That's 25 percentage points higher from just being wrong in the right direction first. The key distinction is between a near-miss and an out-of-left-field guess. If the error is close to the correct answer, it can serve as a stepping stone to remembering the right one. But if the error is a wild guess with no connection to reality, learning the correct information afterwards is actually a little harder. The brain responds differently to "I was almost right" than to "I was completely off." The mechanism behind this is genuinely interesting. When you commit to a wrong answer with some confidence, you create a prediction error. The brain registers the gap between what you expected and what was actually true. That gap triggers deeper processing than passive reception of information. Multiple studies suggested that the more confident you are in the wrong answer, the more likely you will remember the right answer after you're corrected. The surprise of being wrong when you were absolutely certain you were right seems to focus attention to the corrective feedback in a way that cements it. The practical implication for anyone who learns anything at all, which is literally everyone, is to engage with material before you feel ready. Take the practice test before you feel like you know it. Make the guess before you've read the chapter. Be wrong first, specifically and confidently. The embarrassment of the wrong answer is doing more than you realize. So when have you had a happy accident in learning? The moments where being wrong turned out to be the best thing that could have happened. The time you were confidently incorrect about something, got corrected, and never forgot the right answer again.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
A new study published in Health and Place out of Norway found something that sounds counterintuitive. Spending time alone in nature, not with a group, not as a social activity, just you in the outdoors, has a measurable protective effect against loneliness. Researchers surveyed people living near Norway's largest lake in a popular outdoor recreation area. They asked about connectedness to nature, feelings of loneliness, and how often people engaged in solo outdoor activity like walking, fishing, or canoeing. They found that both engaging in outdoor activities and feeling connected to nature were associated with lower levels of loneliness. The researchers' conclusion, strengthening the sense of belonging not just to other people but to natural environments and the surroundings, appears to have a protective effect against loneliness. Loneliness and a sense of not belonging are a major public health challenge, and nature offers another path to belonging beyond direct human interaction. Here's the distinction that I think is worth understanding. Solitude is not the same as loneliness. When people spend time alone in nature, they often reflect more deeply, and that reflection may strengthen their sense of connection to the environment. That connection can then reduce feelings of isolation. In other words, being alone in the right setting can help people feel less alone overall. The benefit comes from chosen solitude, not forced separation from people. Basically, we'd all be better off if we touched grass every once in a while. But the mechanism is more specific than that. It's not just the fresh air or the exercise. It's the sense of belonging to something larger than your immediate circumstances. A forest doesn't care about your email. A lake doesn't know what's in the news. There's something about being in a natural space that recalibrates your sense of scale in a useful direction. So where do you go when you need to reset the spot that works? It might be a park, might be a particular trail, might be a bench next to a specific body of water. What's yours and what does it do for you?
Last breath of polluted air for the next 65 days. Gonna miss it. I don't trust air I can't see.
Live Science ran a piece this week on a case study that originally appeared in the British Medical Journal in 1997 and has been circulating again after going viral. It involves a woman referred to only as AB, a healthy middle-aged woman in 1980s England with no psychiatric history, and what happened to her one evening while she was reading at home. A voice spoke to her. It said, "Please don't be afraid. I know it must be shocking for you to hear me speaking to you like this, but this is the easiest way I could think of. My friend and I used to work at the Children's Hospital, and we would like to help you." The voice then offered to prove its authenticity by providing 3 pieces of information she didn't know, which she could verify. She looked them up and they checked out. Understandably alarmed, she saw her doctor, who referred to a psychiatrist and was diagnosed with functional hallucinatory psychosis. She was given medication and counseling. The voices went away. She went on vacation to celebrate. Then the voices came back. This time they gave her an address to visit. Her husband drove her there. It was the CT scan department of a large London hospital. The voices told her she had a brain tumor and she should go inside and ask for a scan. Her psychiatrist requested the scan primarily to reassure her. The request was initially declined with the note that the doctor had gone a little overboard, believing what her patient's hallucinations were telling her. The scan was eventually approved. The scan actually confirmed a tumor growing in the tissues between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. She had surgery. The tumor was removed. When she woke up, she heard the voices one final time. They said, "We are pleased to have helped you. Goodbye." According to the psychiatrist who followed up with her 12 years later, the voices never returned. Now, what's actually going on here? The most likely explanation, and the one most of the doctors at the case conference landed on, is that because the tumor was so large, the patient may have subconsciously sensed something was wrong. Her anxiety about an unidentified physical sensation may have manifested as voices that seemed to know more than she did, but were actually only drawing her attention to information she didn't realize she already had. In other words, her brain knew something was wrong and found the strangest possible way to communicate that. What makes this genuinely unique, the psychiatrist's own words, is that this is the first and only instance he came across in which hallucinatory voices offered specific diagnoses, directed the patient to the most appropriate type of hospital, expressed pleasure that she had received treatment, bid her farewell, and disappeared. No other known case report describes anything similar to that. The question underneath this story is how much your body knows about its own condition before you consciously register it. Have you ever had a gut feeling about your own health that turned out to be right? Not a voice, just a persistent sense that something wasn't quite right, or conversely, that something was fine when doctors were worried. For me, I always have ideas pop into my head. Stomach ache, clearly a tumor. Headache, obviously a stroke just waiting to happen. So I've come to the conclusion that if an idea pops into my head, it's usually a pretty good indication that it's anything other than that.
It reminds me of my favorite poem, which is, roses are red, violets are blue. I'm a schizophrenic, and so am I.
A man in Canada was arrested after replacing $34,000 worth of Lego pieces inside boxes with pasta before returning them to the store. The scheme involved buying sets, removing the Lego pieces, replacing them with pasta, and returning the boxes as if unopened. This is actually genuinely brilliant from a creative standpoint, and $34,000 is approximately 2 complete Lego Titanic sets. The operational commitment required to execute this at scale is actually impressive in a deeply misguided way.
Take him away, boys.
Hey, I'm the chief here. Take him away, toys.
What'd you say, Chief?
A Florida woman was arrested for driving 123 miles per hour and told police it was perfectly fine because she was driving a Toyota Supra. The Supra is a sports car. It's not, however, a sovereign nation with its own traffic laws. I'm genuinely impressed she got it up to 123, though. It must have been a very straight road. Those are not inexpensive vehicles, and performance is real. The legal reasoning, however, is not.
I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
A paraglider in Italy became tangled in a tree during landing and had to be rescued while a nearby cow watched with what witnesses described as apparent curiosity. This is the second aerial landing at the wrong place story this week, following the skydiver who hit the Virginia Tech scoreboard. There seems to be a rash of people landing where they aren't supposed to be. The cow appears to be the most composed individual present.
Don't kid yourself, Jimmy. If a cow ever got the chance, he'd eat you and everyone you care about.
A man in Russia's coldest region was found frozen solid on a bench, and doctors actually managed to revive him. He had fallen asleep outside in temperatures that most people would not survive, and yet somehow did. He has since announced plans to go back to school and become a lawyer.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm just a caveman. I fell in some ice and later got thawed out by some of your scientists. Your world frightens and confuses me.
That's it for News Side Quest. 3 questions still out there for you. Your biggest happy accident learning experience, where you go when you need to reset, and whether you've ever had a gut feeling about your health that turned out to be right. Email me at newsidequest@gmail.com or hit me up in the Substack comments. See you tomorrow.